Beneath Alabama's magnolia trees and red clay soil, dark stories have lingered for generations. From ghostly apparitions to mysterious creatures, these tales still echo through small towns and countryside alike. Today, we're bringing 15 haunting legends of Alabama back to life. Number 1. Huggin' Molly. In the quiet town of Abbeville, children know not to stay out after dark. For over a century, parents have warned about Huggin' Molly, a towering figure dressed in black who roams the streets at night. Standing 7 feet tall, with a pale face hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat, she appears from the shadows when you least expect it. Molly doesn't harm her victims, not exactly. Instead, she wraps her long arms around them, squeezes tight, and lets out a bone-chilling scream directly into their ears before vanishing back into the darkness. The embrace isn't deadly, but those who've felt it say the memory haunts them forever. Some believe Molly was once a woman who lost her child, doomed to wander the streets embracing other children in grief. Others say she's a guardian spirit, her frightening hugs meant to scare children home before real danger finds them. For generations, Abbeville's children have raced home at sunset, looking nervously over their shoulders at every rustle of leaves or unexpected shadow. Even adults quicken their pace when walking alone at night. Today, the legend has become part of the town's identity, with a restaurant named after the spectral figure. But ask locals about Huggin' Molly, and many will still tell you with absolute certainty she's out there, arms open, waiting for anyone brave or foolish enough to linger in Abbeville after dark. Number 2. The Red Lady of Huntingdon College. In the hallways of Huntingdon College's historic Pratt Hall, students speak in hushed tones about a figure in flowing red who appears when the dormitory falls quiet. Known simply as the Red Lady, she's been seen drifting through corridors and standing at the foot of beds for over a century. The story began in the 1900s with a student named Martha. Desperately homesick and increasingly isolated, Martha wore red constantly. Red dresses, red jewelry, red lipstick. Her room was decorated entirely in crimson, from the bedspread to the curtains. As her loneliness deepened, Martha slipped further into depression until one morning she was found dead, her body surrounded by the red she'd loved so much. After her death, strange things began happening in the dormitory. Students reported seeing a woman in red, walking silently down the hallway, vanishing when approached. Objects in rooms would move overnight, and some claimed to hear soft sobbing from empty corners. Most unsettling are the accounts of students waking to find the Red Lady standing at the end of their beds, her face hidden in shadow, before she dissolves into nothing. Others describe the scent of old-fashioned perfume lingering in rooms where no one has been. To this day, Huntingdon College students report encounters with the Red Lady. Campus tours mention her legend, but many refuse to tell the full story, fearing that speaking of her too directly might summon her presence. Whether seeking friendship or something darker, the Red Lady of Huntingdon continues her eternal vigil, a crimson sentinel in the night. Number 3. Dead Children's Playground. Nestled within Huntsville's Maple Hill Cemetery, there's a small playground that takes on a different life after sunset. Swings move on windless nights. Children's laughter echoes when no one is there. This is Dead Children's Playground, perhaps Alabama's most unsettling recreation area. The playground sits on the edge of the state's largest and oldest cemetery, built in the 1960s, over what was once part of the graveyard. Local legend claims the spirits of children buried nearby come to play here after dark, finally free to enjoy the childhood that was taken from them too soon. Visitors report swings moving in synchronized patterns, as if pushed by invisible hands. Strange orbs of light drift between the slides and climbing structures. Some have captured recordings of children's voices when no one else was present, calling to each other or singing forgotten nursery rhymes. The most common time for activity is between 10 p.m. and 3 a.m., when the playground should be silent and still. Instead, it comes alive with otherworldly energy. Parents who've lost children sometimes leave toys on the equipment, only to return and find them moved or arranged in patterns no wind could create. When the city once threatened to remove the playground, public outcry saved it, not just from living families, but from those who believed the spirits needed this space. The playground was renovated instead, and activity reportedly increased afterward. Today, Dead Children's Playground remains a magnet for paranormal investigators and curious visitors. But those who mock the spirits or come with disrespect often leave shaken, having learned that in this playground, not all the children are visible, but all of them are watching. Number 4, the face in the courthouse window. In the small town of Carrollton, there's a window in the Pickens County Courthouse that holds a mystery that has lasted for over a century. Etched into the glass is the distinct image of a human face, solemn, staring, and impossible to remove. The story begins in 1876 with a man named Henry Wells, accused of burning down the previous courthouse. As an angry mob gathered outside the new building where Wells was being held, a bolt of lightning struck. For a brief moment, Wells' terrified face was illuminated at the garret window as he looked down at the crowd below. At that exact instant, witnesses claim his expression was somehow burned into the glass permanently. Though Wells was later taken by the mob and hanged, his face remained, a silent testament to his final moment of fear. Over the decades, countless attempts have been made to clean, replace, or otherwise remove the face from the window. Glass cleaners, scrapers, and even replacement have all failed. During renovations, workers discovered that the image is somehow embedded within the glass itself, not simply on the surface. Even more unsettling, some say the expression on the face changes slightly, depending on when you view it. In the morning, it appears resigned. By evening, it seems to be silently screaming. Law enforcement officers working late in the courthouse report feeling watched, hearing footsteps on the stairs leading to the garret, and finding doors that were locked somehow standing open. Today, the face in the courthouse window draws visitors from across the country. Skeptics become believers when standing before the glass, seeing with their own eyes how a single moment of terror more than a century ago left an impression that neither time nor human effort can erase. Number 5. White Thang. Deep in the forests of northern Alabama, from Morgan and Etowah counties to the backwoods of Talladega, there roams a creature that defies explanation. Locals call it the White Thang, a massive, hair-covered being that moves silently through the trees and has terrorized rural communities for generations. Unlike the brown or black Sasquatch reported in other regions, the White Thang is described as ghostly white, standing between 7 and 10 feet tall. Some accounts give it bear-like features with a pointed head. Others claim it has glowing red eyes and claws sharp enough to tear through metal. The most consistent detail is its unsettling, human-like scream that echoes through hollers and mountains. Hunters have reported being stalked by the creature, feeling watched for hours before catching a glimpse of something massive and pale slipping between distant trees. Farmers have discovered livestock mutilated in ways no known predator could accomplish, with precise wounds and an absence of blood. In the 1940s, multiple sightings around Walnut Grove created such panic that armed posses formed to track the creature. They found massive, unidentifiable footprints and claw marks 8 feet up on trees, but the White Thang itself remained elusive. Even today, rural residents warn children not to wander too far into the woods alone. Game cameras occasionally capture strange images, blurred white figures that seem too tall and thin to be bears, too massive to be humans. Rangers and wildlife officials deny the creature's existence publicly, but privately, some admit to unexplainable encounters on remote fire roads and deep forest trails. Whether the white thing is an undiscovered species, a supernatural manifestation, or something in between, the legend continues to haunt Alabama's wilderness, a pale shadow moving just beyond the firelight. Number 6, the Ghost of Gaineswood. In Demopolis stands Gaineswood, one of Alabama's most magnificent plantation homes. Behind its Greek Revival columns and elegant interiors lies a story of broken promises and a spirit that refuses to rest. The ghost is Evelyn Carter, a housekeeper who died while caring for the family during the winter of 1860. On her deathbed, she made the owner promise to return her body to her native Virginia. It was winter, however, and travel was impossible. The master of Gaineswood temporarily buried her beneath the house, intending to fulfill his promise in spring. That promise was never kept. Evelyn remains buried far from home, and her spirit has never forgiven this betrayal. Visitors and staff at the historic mansion report hearing piano music from the empty parlor, where Evelyn once entertained the family. Doors open and close by themselves. The scent of lavender, Evelyn's favorite perfume, wafts through rooms that have been empty for hours. Most unsettling are the footsteps that pace restlessly overhead when the upper floors are vacant, as if someone is still waiting to go home. During restorations in the 1970s, workers refused to stay in the house overnight after tools were moved or disappeared completely. Items placed on tables would be rearranged by morning into perfect symmetrical patterns. One worker claimed to see a woman in period dress standing at the top of the main staircase, only to vanish when he called out to her. Today, Gaineswood operates as a museum, and staff are matter-of-fact about Evelyn's presence. They don't consider her dangerous, just sad and determined to be remembered. Visitors who are respectful often have peaceful experiences, while those who mock her story sometimes find camera batteries mysteriously drained or personal items misplaced. After more than 160 years, Evelyn Carter still waits at Gaineswood, a permanent resident of a house that was never meant to be her final home. Number 7, the crying spirit of Tutwiler Dorm. At the University of Alabama, Tutwiler Hall has long been known for its uninvited resident, a young woman whose weeping echoes through the corridors late at night. For decades, female students have reported hearing heartbroken sobs that seem to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The story begins in the 1930s with a student who received devastating news. Her fiancé had been killed overseas. Overcome with grief, she supposedly took her own life in one of the dormitory bathrooms. Though the university has no official record of such a death, the legend has persisted through generations of students. Residents report showers turning on by themselves and faucets running in empty bathrooms. Some have awakened to find their belongings rearranged or personal items moved to the bathroom. The most common experience is the sound of a woman crying, soft at first, then building to inconsolable sobs before suddenly stopping. One former resident advisor claimed that during a late-night room check, she saw a young woman in vintage clothing standing at the end of the hallway. When approached, the figure turned toward the wall and disappeared. Others have reported feeling a cold hand on their shoulder when studying alone late at night. Even after Tutwiler Hall was demolished and rebuilt in recent years, the experiences continued in the new building, suggesting that whatever, or whoever, haunts the residence hall is attached to the location rather than the physical structure. University officials rarely comment on the stories, but student orientation leaders often include the tale in campus tours, half-jokingly warning new students that if they hear crying at night, it's best to whisper words of comfort rather than investigate. The spirit, they say, is simply looking for someone to share her sorrow. Number 8. The Ghost of Sloss Furnaces. For nearly 90 years, Sloss Furnaces produced the iron that built America, but the cost in human suffering was immense. Today, the preserved industrial site in Birmingham stands as a museum and a monument to the supernatural legacies of one particularly cruel foreman. James Slag. Wormwood oversaw the graveyard shift in the early 1900s. He drove his crews mercilessly, forcing them to work in dangerous conditions that led to countless injuries and at least 47 deaths. Workers who complained disappeared. Those who stayed endured hellish conditions until 1906, when Wormwood himself allegedly lost his balance and fell into a vat of molten iron. Some whispered it was no accident, that his workers had finally taken revenge. After his death, strange occurrences began. Workers reported being pushed from behind while standing near the furnaces. Tools would fly off shelves. Mysterious voices shouted orders when no supervisor was present. The night shift became impossible to staff as men refused to work under these supernatural conditions. When the furnaces closed in 1971 and the site became a historic landmark, the activity didn't stop. Security guards report hearing the screams of men burning alive. Visitors feel sudden drops in temperature and unseen hands grabbing their arms. Countless EVP recordings have captured a gruff voice ordering people to get back to work. During Halloween events at the site, dozens of visitors have experienced unexplained scratches, burns, and shoves, particularly men who wear hard hats or work clothes, as if the entity mistakes them for his workers. Birmingham police have responded to numerous calls from the site, including reports of a man with burned skin seen climbing the furnace towers after hours, only to find the location empty upon arrival. Today, Sloss Furnaces is considered one of the most haunted industrial sites in America. Those who work there accept the presence of Slag Wormwood as part of the job, a foreman who continues his cruel supervision long after both he and his furnaces went cold. Number 9. Hell's Gate Bridge. On a lonely stretch of road outside Oxford, Alabama, there's a bridge locals have ominously nicknamed Hell's Gate. The narrow, aging structure spans a creek bed that seems darker than it should be, even on the brightest days. Those who know the legend never cross it alone at night. Stories about the bridge vary, but most center on a tragic accident decades ago. A school bus supposedly stalled on the bridge before plunging into the creek below, claiming the lives of everyone aboard. Other versions tell of a young couple who drove off the bridge while arguing, or of a mother who threw her unwanted child into the water. Whatever the origin, the bridge has gained a reputation for supernatural phenomena. Cars stall inexplicably while crossing. Batteries drain without reason. GPS devices lose signal or redirect drivers to strange, incorrect routes when approaching. The most infamous legend claims that if you stop your car in the middle of the bridge at midnight, turn off the headlights, and wait, you'll see ghostly figures emerging from the creek bed. Some say they're the children from the bus, their pale forms climbing up the embankment toward your vehicle. Others report seeing a woman in white, carrying a small bundle in her arms. Most disturbing are the accounts of a phantom hitchhiker who appears at one end of the bridge. Those who stop to offer help report that the figure, usually described as a soaking wet teenager, gets into the back seat without a word, only to vanish before reaching the other side, leaving behind a puddle of creek water on the upholstery. Local police have responded to countless reports of stranded motorists on the bridge, only to find it empty upon arrival. Rangers in the nearby woods have heard children's laughter echoing from the creek at night, though no families were camping in the area. Today, Hell's Gate Bridge stands as a magnet for thrill seekers and paranormal investigators. But those who know Alabama's backroads best still find alternate routes after sunset, unwilling to test whether the gateway to the underworld might swing open for them. Number 10. Sally Carter's Grave. In Huntsville's Maple Hill Cemetery lies the grave of Sally Carter, a young woman who died of a mysterious fever in 1837. For nearly 2 centuries, her resting place has been the center of one of Alabama's most enduring ghost stories. Sally was just 16 when she passed away, while visiting her sister at the nearby Cedarhurst estate. Her grief-stricken family buried her in the cemetery and marked her grave with a beautiful monument featuring a carved angel. But Sally, it seems, was not ready to rest. Within weeks of her burial, residents near the cemetery reported seeing a young woman in a white dress wandering among the headstones. Visitors to her grave would find fresh flowers they hadn't left, or personal items moved from where they'd placed them. Some claimed the stone angel above her grave would change position, turning to watch as people approached. The legends grew in the early 1900s, when a group of university students visited the grave on a dare. They reported that the temperature around Sally's plot was noticeably colder than the surrounding area, and that they heard a young woman's laughter just behind them as they read the headstone. Most famous is the story of Sally's monument being moved. The original stone was relocated in the mid-20th century during cemetery renovations. According to cemetery workers, inexplicable events plagued the grounds until the monument was returned to its original location. Tools disappeared, equipment malfunctioned, and one worker reported seeing a young woman in white watching him from behind nearby trees. Even today, visitors leave trinkets and letters for Sally. Many young women come to ask for help with romantic troubles. As legends say, Sally is sympathetic to matters of the heart. Paranormal investigators report that electronic equipment often fails near her grave, and photographs taken of the site frequently contain unexplainable orbs or misty figures. Though cemetery officials downplay the stories, they've never been able to explain why the ground around Sally's grave remains lush and green even during the harshest droughts, as if someone, or something, is still caring for this small patch of earth nearly 2 centuries after a young girl was laid to rest. Number 11. The Witch in the Woods. Just outside Prattville, along the edges of the dense forests that surround this small Alabama town, locals warn about venturing too deep among the trees. This is the domain of the Witch in the Woods, a legend that has terrified generations of children and continues to haunt the community today. According to the oldest versions of the story, the witch was once a normal woman who lived alone on the outskirts of town in the late 1800s. She kept to herself, gathering herbs and practicing folk medicine. When several children fell ill and died during a particularly harsh winter, suspicious townspeople blamed her supposed dark magic and drove her into the forest. There, it's said, she truly became what they accused her of being, a witch who cursed the town and all who enter her domain. The forest where she was last seen became a place of dread, where hunters would find their game mysteriously spoiled, and loggers would discover their tools broken overnight. Strange markings began appearing on trees, symbols no one recognized carved deep into the bark. Hikers reported disorientation, walking for what seemed like minutes, only to discover hours had passed. Others described seeing a hunched figure watching from between distant trees, vanishing when approached. Most unsettling are the small, crude dolls occasionally found hanging from branches, twisted figures made from twigs, moss, and what appears to be human hair. Those who have taken these dolls home report nightmares, illness, or hearing scratching sounds from inside their walls until the objects are returned to the forest. Local parents still use the witch as a warning to keep children from wandering too far into the woods. But even adults in Prattville avoid certain trails and clearings, particularly one area known as the Crooked Circle, a ring of trees that all grew bent in the same unnatural direction, as if warped by some invisible force. Whether she was a misunderstood healer or something darker, the witch in the woods has become woven into Prattville's identity. And on nights when the moon is hidden and the wind moves strangely through the trees, even skeptics find themselves walking a little faster when passing the forest's edge. Number 12. Bear Creek Swamp Ghosts. In the thick, murky waters of Bear Creek Swamp near Prattville, stories of the supernatural run as deep as the muddy bottom. This sprawling wetland, with its twisted cypress trees and floating masses of vegetation, has been the source of ghostly encounters for over a century. The most common sightings involve mysterious lights that dance across the surface of the water, orbs that glow blue or white, moving with purpose before suddenly blinking out. Local lore claims these are the lanterns of slaves who escaped from nearby plantations, only to become lost and perish in the swamp's labyrinthine channels. Hunters and fishermen tell of hearing chains rattling and mournful singing when no one else is around. Some have abandoned their gear and fled after feeling invisible hands touch their shoulders or hearing their names whispered from just behind them. Other legends speak of a phantom steamboat that appears in the fog, its ghostly outline visible for mere moments before dissolving back into the mist. Historical records confirm that several vessels did sink in these waters during the 1800s. Their wreckage and passengers never recovered from the swamp's grip. Perhaps most disturbing are the reports of the Watchers, indistinct human shapes that stand motionless among the trees, visible only from the corner of one's eye. Turn to look directly, and they're gone, though many describe the unsettling feeling of being followed as they make their way out of the swamp. In the 1980s, road crews working on Highway 82, which crosses part of the swamp, repeatedly found their equipment mysteriously moved overnight or partially submerged in areas that had been dry the previous evening. Several workers refused to return after reporting a procession of figures walking silently across the water at dawn. Today, Bear Creek Swamp remains largely as it has for centuries, a place where nature and the supernatural seem to coexist. Local tour guides offer ghost tours by boat, though they warn participants that what you might see or hear in the swamp sometimes follows you home. Number 13. Boyington Oak. In the heart of Mobile's Church Street graveyard stands an imposing oak tree with a story unlike any other. It didn't grow there by chance. It grew with purpose, from the grave of a man determined to prove his innocence even after death. Charles Boyington was a young printer who was convicted of murdering his friend, Nathaniel Frost, in 1834. Despite maintaining his innocence throughout his trial, Boyington was sentenced to hang. His final words on the gallows were a solemn vow. "A tree will grow from my heart and prove my innocence." He was buried in the Potter's Field section of the cemetery, an unmarked grave for a convicted murderer. But within years, something extraordinary happened. An oak sapling emerged directly over where Boyington's heart would rest, growing with unusual speed until it became impossible to ignore. As the tree flourished, doubt about Boyington's guilt grew among the townspeople. Years after his execution, another man allegedly confessed on his deathbed to Frost's murder, though official records of this confession have never been found. The oak itself has developed strangely over the decades. Unlike most oaks that spread outward, this one grows primarily upward, as if reaching for something. Its trunk has formed what many describe as face-like patterns in the bark, patterns that seem to shift and change with the seasons. Visitors to the grave report unusual experiences: watches that stop working, compass needles that spin erratically, and the frequent appearance of red cardinals that seem unusually bold, following people through the cemetery. Most unsettling are the accounts of whispering heard near the tree on still days, a voice too quiet to make out the words, but persistent enough to draw attention. Cemetery caretakers have found small offerings left at the base of the tree: coins, handwritten notes, and occasionally legal documents from those seeking justice in their own lives. Today, the Boyington Oak stands as both a tourist attraction and a powerful symbol. Whether it truly grew from the heart of an innocent man or simply from a seed carried by wind or bird, its presence continues to raise questions about justice, redemption, and what might lie beyond the grave. Number 14. The Dancing Ghost of Grancer Harrison. In a small remote cemetery near Kinston, there's a tomb unlike any other in Alabama. It includes a wooden dance floor built directly over the grave, constructed not by grieving relatives, but at the specific request of the man buried beneath it. This is the final resting place of William Grancer Harrison, and locals say he's still dancing more than 150 years after his death. Harrison was a wealthy plantation owner, known throughout the region for his love of dancing and the elaborate balls he hosted. As he aged, he had a special building constructed on his property just for dances, complete with a sprung wooden floor and room for musicians. He told friends that even death wouldn't stop his celebrations. True to his word, when he felt his end approaching in 1860, Harrison gave detailed instructions for his burial. He was to be interred in his dancing clothes, with his fiddle, and a wooden floor was to be built over his grave so the dances could continue. His family honored these unusual requests, creating what became known as Harrison's Dancing Ground. Shortly after his burial, locals began reporting strange occurrences near the grave. The sound of fiddle music drifted through the trees on quiet nights. Mysterious lights appeared above the dance floor when no one was around. Some claimed to see the faint outline of dancers moving across the wooden planks, accompanied by laughter and the tapping of unseen feet. The legends took a darker turn in the early 1900s when vandals broke into Harrison's tomb, reportedly seeking the valuables buried with him. According to local lore, the desecration triggered an increase in paranormal activity. People driving past the cemetery reported seeing a tall figure in formal attire standing beside the road, vanishing when they slowed down. The original dance floor has been replaced several times over the decades, but each restoration seems to renew the ghostly activities. Paranormal investigators have recorded unexplainable music and captured photographs of mist forming dance-like patterns above the grave. Today, Harrison's unusual tomb draws visitors from across the country. Local residents take the haunting in stride. After all, they say, Grancer is doing exactly what he promised, ensuring that the dancing never stops, not even in death. Number 15. The Spectre of Highway 5. On the long, lonely stretch of Highway 5 between Jasper and Birmingham, drivers have reported a hitchhiker who appears on rainy nights, a young woman in outdated clothes with a haunting expression and eyes that seem to look right through you. Those who stop to offer help report a chilling experience that has left many questioning what separates our world from the next. According to the most common version of the legend, the woman was involved in a fatal car accident on the highway in the 1960s. She was thrown from the vehicle and died while trying to flag down help. Now, her spirit continues the attempt, appearing on the roadside, particularly during stormy weather, conditions similar to the night of her death. Drivers who stop say she speaks very little, usually just giving an address in Birmingham. Some report that she seems confused about the date, mentioning events from decades past as if they were recent news. The true terror comes when they near their destination and look back to find the seat empty, with only a damp spot where she had been sitting. In several accounts, concerned drivers have gone to the address she provided, only to be told by an elderly resident that the woman they described was their daughter or sister who died in a car crash many years ago. In one particularly unsettling version, a driver was shown a photograph of the young woman, confirming it was the same person he'd picked up just hours earlier. Law enforcement officers who patrol Highway 5 rarely discuss the stories officially, but off the record, several have admitted to receiving multiple reports each year of drivers who claim to have encountered the hitchhiking ghost. One officer reportedly keeps a blanket in his patrol car, not for emergencies, but because he once gave it to a young woman walking along the highway in the rain, only to find it neatly folded on the same stretch of road the next day. Skeptics note that the story shares elements with hitchhiking ghost legends from across the country. Yet those who travel Highway 5 regularly insist there's something unique about this stretch of Alabama road. A lingering sadness that hangs in the air, and a young woman still trying to make her way home decades after her journey was tragically cut short. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.